Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday, December 7th. And right off the bat, let me mention that we have an interesting article right on the Perspective Weather website, the homepage of Perspective Weather, regarding the role of the weather on December 7th, 1941. There's kind of a little known indirect benefit of the unsettled and windy weather conditions that kind of preceded the attack on December 7th, 1941, and we talk about it in our posting. Again, please, if you have a chance, take a look at it at PerspectiveWeather.com, the role of the weather on December 7th, 1941. Well, we begin the new work week here with low pressure near the Carolina coastline, causing some light snow as far north as the central part of Virginia. That low pressure area will kind of consolidate into one single system and intensify as it pushes off the Carolina coastline over the next few hours and strengthens out over the western Atlantic. Over the weekend, we did indeed have some accumulating snow, especially located in the interior sections of New England, let's say from central and western Massachusetts up across New Hampshire and into Maine. Boston ended up with only a couple of inches of snow. Again, it was certainly heavier to the west of Boston, farther inland, central Massachusetts, for example, even all the way down to the northern interior section of Connecticut. They received some accumulating snow. Probably the heaviest ended up over New Hampshire and interior sections of the state of Maine. Well, here's the weather map as we begin the day. These multiple areas of low pressure will kind of consolidate into one area off the Carolina coastline, and that'll intensify as it moves away from the east coast out over the waters of the open waters of the western Atlantic. And in its wake, there's really a cold air mass in its wake. We had some of the lowest temperatures so far this season, for example, in the Philadelphia area, down into the mid-20s for lows, suburban locations. I believe that's the lowest we've been all season, and we have cold air all the way down into Florida and down into the deep south this morning, kind of in the wake of the weekend storm system and in the wake of this particular low pressure area that again will push away from the Carolina coast over the next few hours. Not much going on behind it. A lot of high pressure across the southern part of Canada, the middle and western part of the U.S., and high pressure will tend to build into the eastern states tonight and Tuesday and dominate the weather scene pretty much for the rest of the week. Here's a radar loop from WSI's and Telecast.com. Snow is showing up on this particular type of map in blue. Again, we have some snow all the way up into the central part of Virginia, maybe the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula. Rain farther to the south and east where that low pressure area is now consolidating near the Carolina coastline. So some decent rains over the outer banks. But again, the snow is kind of limited on the northwest side of this particular low pressure system. Again, no high pressure area anchored to the north. We didn't have that over the past weekend as well, and yet it did manage to cause some accumulating snows in the interior part of New England. Still some residual snow up across the Canadian Maritime provinces and all the way down into the northern half of Maine. Not much going on in the western two-thirds of the nation. Rain now moving into the Pacific Northwest, but again, high pressure will build back into the eastern states tonight and Tuesday and pretty much dominate the weather scene for the eastern half of the nation for much of the remainder of the work week. Let's kind of walk through the temperature pattern over the next week or two. We're looking at 850 millibar temperature anomalies moving forward from this morning, December 7th, maybe for the next week or two. Again, we have colder than normal air right now situated throughout much of the eastern third of the nation, all the way down to the Gulf coastal region and into Florida as well. Central Florida, for example, will be limited with highs in the 60s today with a lot of wind in the wake of that Carolina storm system. Notice upstream, though, some warmer than normal conditions. Now, let's move forward here. Basically, we'll have kind of a back and forth pattern for the next couple of weeks in terms of temperatures. Cold air outbreaks will continue from Canada into the central and eastern U.S. And not all the time, but there certainly will be cold air outbreaks, which we'll see here in a moment. The teleconnection indices that we've been tracking still remain negative in terms of the Arctic Oscillation and negative in terms of the North Atlantic Oscillation. That promises a continuation of some cold air outbreaks that do make it all the way into the eastern U.S. Once we get through this chilly air mass here over the next couple of days, it will modify in the eastern half of the nation. Here we are now by Thursday. Much of the eastern half of the nation flips to milder than normal conditions as compared with the colder than normal conditions that we have here. But notice upstream there are some more cold air outbreaks, certainly on the weather map here by the end of the week. We start off the weekend quite a bit on the mild side in the eastern half of the nation, but there will be a strong cold frontal system that will basically moving west to east across the nation. You kind of see it depicted here with cold air to the west of this point right here as we begin the upcoming weekend, and warmer than normal conditions, at least at the 850 millibar level in the eastern half of the nation. That frontal system may very well be accompanied by some showers as it crosses the country and reaches the eastern U.S., maybe the second half of the upcoming weekend. Let's just move forward here. And notice right there, cold frontal system probably reaches the eastern seaboard, let's say around Sunday of the upcoming weekend. A lot of cold air behind it here, so we'll see how that moves. And it looks like it'll move right into the eastern U.S. at the end of the upcoming weekend, the early part of next week. We're talking a week from now. A reinforcing shot of cold air, and it's backed up by a lot of cold air up across Canada a week from today. This is now Monday, December 14th. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps from the operational run of the GFS last night at 6E. Again, some snow this morning across southern half of West Virginia, maybe all the way up into central Virginia, maybe even some of the suburbs south of the district. They'll see some light snow or flurries over the next couple of hours as low pressure kind of consolidates over the Carolina coastline. That does pull away any cloud cover this morning over the I-95 corridor region. Philadelphia, for example, cloudy right now. D.C. cloudy. Should become partly to mostly sunny by the latter part of the morning into the afternoon hours. A little bit of a breeze develops as this storm does indeed strengthen off the east coast and pulls away. Decent breeze in the overnight hours and quite cold indeed. Then look at this, kind of a quiet scene here across much of the nation. Very little precipitation on Tuesday night across the nation here. That low pressure area moving away from the east coast. A little bit of rain across the Pacific Northwest, but high pressure really takes control, and it looks like it'll take control for much of the remainder of the work week. We'll just push forward kind of quickly here into the upcoming weekend. This is now the Saturday morning forecast map, and here's that frontal system we talked about. This is really the next weather system that's of importance here. It could have some shower activity as it crosses the Midwest into the eastern states over the upcoming weekend, and indeed it'll have some cold air behind it. We'll move a little bit forward here into the latter part of the weekend. This is a Sunday morning forecast map. Cold front right near the eastern seaboard, and again a lot of cold air behind it, so it looks like this week will turn out to be a quiet week. Cold to start, milder for the second half of the work week, and then next week promises to be pretty cold throughout much of the eastern half of the nation in the wake of a late weekend cold frontal passage. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.